Alright everyone, today we have mostly happy news, which is that another socialist would-be corrupt dictator is out. That is Evo Morales, the former, now, president of Bolivia. You're not hearing a whole lot of it from the legacy media. Now, long story short, Evo Morales is a corrupt jerk-off. He's a socialist, so that's natural. You know, no more or less corrupt than the rest of them. He's now out because the military refused to carry out his bloodshed orders to go and basically stomp some skulls into the pavement to keep him in power over disputes over the election's validity. He wins the election, but then so many irregularities were noticed that people said, well, it's probably not legitimate. They held protests. They wanted another election, a do-over, because they felt it was considerably corrupt. The military apparently agreeing with that assessment. They refused, they stepped aside, said do it yourself, basically. Only at that point, in a society where you don't have a strong martial capability in the civilian hands, that is the right to keep and bear arms and so forth, only then would a dictator or an oligarch or somebody like Morales step down. This is why, by the way, we must upend gun control and do away with as much of it as possible in as many places in the world as possible. I support Bolsonaro's efforts to arm the Brazilian people. Recension of gun control in Canada should be a priority. And of course, especially here, I mean, well, no, I'm not physically here at the moment, in the United States, where I happen to reside, I want less gun control worldwide. I think everyone should have multiple weapons and piles of ammunition. I think it'd be a better society. History has shown that to be correct. You know, basically, screw off if you disagree. Here's what I would say, though. You're not hearing a lot about this story because of two important facets of it. The legacy media in the US right now is looking at the very real possibility that Donald Trump is reelected. Everything that they talk about news-wise is framed on that. The reason why you haven't heard too much about Maduro and his corruption and his scheming and his illegitimate election, among other things, is because it empowers Trump. He even brought it up physically. They're afraid that he's going to say, look, ha ha ha, another socialist would-be dictator kicked out by his people. I express resolve with the people of Bolivia, and this shows us why we must never have socialism in the United States. The Bernie bros and the Warren so-called progressives are terrified of that, especially when he's an indigenous leader. That matters too. You see, the thing is, he's supposedly part of a special tribal group identity within Bolivia, and therefore he's beyond reproach. Liberals here in the West don't want to admit that it is possible for a person who is a socialist and so-called indigenous to be a corrupt jerk-off and get abandoned by their own military. It's bad optics. There's a lot of political stuff going on. You frame the debate. You've got to understand that in the internet era especially, with communication as instantaneous and wide as it is now, optics matter more than ever within politics. Things that happen here affect Brexit. Things that happen in the UK affect US elections. That's just the name of the game. You can call it rigging or election interference if you want. That's bullshit. The real rigging happens here, where Evo Morales makes sure that the votes are being counted by people that are loyal to him so that he wins re-election. And to his credit, at least he stepped down. He could have pulled, like, you know, the ultimate El Presidente, surrounded himself with the few troops that were loyal to him and refused to go, and then waged bloody battles in the street and a guerrilla war thereafter and disappeared like Saddam, I suppose. He's backing new elections, so at the very least, you know, you managed to get rid of your corruption without having to fire too many shots. I mean, yeah, it's funny because then the socialists you see online, like far leftists, they'll whine and bitch and complain. They're like, oh my god, it's a CIA coup. And some of them are mentioning like the UK supporting the protesters somehow is undue foreign influence. When you've got corruption in a regime, Bolivia's been corrupt for a while. This isn't a new thing. The government there is a narco state, basically. Literally, the El Presidente of Bolivia represents a political movement that is essentially cocaine growers. This isn't a joke. This isn't hyperbolic. That's what his political affiliation, his literal party, grew out of. Essentially rural, so-called / indigenous people growing coca, and this is the reason why he's in power. Because of cocaine. Now, I don't think that I agree with the drug war. I don't really care if people want to snort coke, as long as they're not driving around under the influence or doing crazy shit and killing people. They want to snort coke in their own home, I don't really care. They want to chew the coca leaf, it should be totally fucking unregulated anywhere in the world. Love it, I think it's a great idea. That being said, if you have a narco state that's propped up by cartels because it's not really legal in the world, don't you think that might bring an element of corruption to that government? By the way, the bad news is that he's almost certainly to be certain to be replaced by another socialist anyway. Maybe it'll be a more standard, educated, westernized socialist, like somebody who studied in Finland or whatever, but it's not really going to make a difference. What you need to do in Bolivian and other societies that have been blighted by leftism is you need rapid and rampant far-right reform. Far-right in quotations again. You need extreme libertarianism to come in, sweep aside the regulatory structure, sweep out the detritus, all the bureaucrats, all the governors and so forth that almost inevitably are for life. They become very corrupt. Sweep aside the cartels through vigilantism by the rapid expansion of Second Amendment rights or something similar. You need people to have firearms and to defend themselves, and you need to tell them to fend for themselves in day-to-day life. That there are limits to the possibilities of a welfare state before you achieve a level of centrality that automatically generates corruption. That's the problem. By the way, it's very funny because today is definitely Indigenous Peoples Day on my videos, because then we got Kamala Harris talking about the noble savage mythology and the myth of American indigenous people, which is literally what it is. It's going to be a funny video. I mean, come on. There's a reason you're not hearing about this. When the legacy media doesn't want you to know that this dude was kicked out, there's a reason for that. Do you really trust the corporate media to tell you the truth? At this point, they're not telling anything but lies. This is a lie by omission, though. They just won't report on it. They'll bury it on page 3. Oh, yeah, by the way, this world leader just got kicked out by his own military in a spectacular display of socialist corruption. No, we don't want to talk about that. It's not important. Talk about something. Talk about the new Furby. Talk about Reese's Pieces, 5 cents more expensive or something, something like that. Yeah, by the way, cocaine prices probably surging on the black market right now. I'm sorry for all of you out there, you suit-wearing drug users, actually, as well as the crack fiends that'll pay 5 cents more per rock, which probably makes more of a difference in their budgets than, you know, the $5 a line for the coke users. Yeah. At least he's gone. At the very least, there wasn't a huge amount of bloodshed. Hopefully, the next election is proper, regardless of the results, so that, you know, hopefully next time around, next time's a charm, and things go back to being a normal narco state, a stable coke-based society, something like that. I'm not trying to insult any Bolivian users, which I'm sure there's at least 2 of you on here, but I am insulting Evo Morales. Political party's literally cocaine. That's his politics. He's a cocaine socialist. We grow coca and sell it, and we make money, and then we give people welfare, basically. I mean, come on, that's not exactly a sustainable economy, by the way. You know, you're one little bit of actual climate change away from complete starvation, I suppose. Let's hope that the globe warms in Bolivia's case. I think it's meant to make it a little bit greener over the next 100 years, according to their projections. That's about all. Peace out.